Hello guys, maybe you all have heard of something called if you touch it, you own it. So what does that actually mean in the context of business? It means that the customers will expect you to take ownership of different kinds of problems, even if you just went there to change a small thing. So give you some examples. Let's say you have somebody, you go to a repair shop to fix your car. You have a problem with the brakes. You go in, fix that. A few days later, you notice that there's another problem with one of the wheels. So obviously you normally would think that, oh, maybe it has something to do with what they did in the repair shop. Now, that's obviously not always the case, or most of the time it's not the case. Sometimes it can be. And therein lies the problem, because there's uncertainty about what was the cause of something. So, and that's relevant for anything like car repair, any kind of construction work. If you are a company that comes in to change something, to repair something, to fix something, expand something, you have to be ready for the customer to ask you about problems that occur later, even with other parts of the system. And it's sort of a natural human way of reasoning, of course. Let's say you get somebody to fix your toilet, and then suddenly there's something happening with your sink. Okay, it's not the same thing, but that guy was in that room, he did something. At least I have to ask what happened. But the problem, of course, comes for the company that did the maintenance or the repair, that how are they going to prove that it had nothing to do with what they did? And the nuances here can be really difficult to sort of find out what exactly was going on. And the less that is known about the system, the easier it is to make mistakes like that. So I give you an example. If you build a rocket ship, something goes wrong with the rocket ship, and then you get somebody to fix it. Obviously, most people don't know much about how rocket ships work. So it would be really hard to sort of understand what was the cause of this and what was the cause of that. And that's very applicable to solar, because most people don't really understand how solar works in terms of DC electricity, AC, what's the difference in the cables, how can an inverter fault affect panels or the other way around. For example, I'll give some examples that are interesting. It's we have had this situation happen many times, and that's why we don't normally do changes to existing systems. We only do installations of complete systems. And that's precisely because of that. But there have been a few exceptions. And from those exceptions, we can give you examples of how this dynamic is happening. So one example is that we changed panels for a gentleman in Thailand, and we didn't touch the inverter, anything like that. When we are close to finished, now remember, we had not worked in the inverter room at all. The only thing we did was that we brought down the cables to the inverter and changed the cables. That's the only thing we did. But then the customer had a problem with the app not connecting to the internet. And then he came to us asking, what did you do? Because now I cannot connect to the app, while we had not touched anything related to that at all. So I explained to him, like, okay, actually this is unrelated. Yes, it happened at the same time, but it's completely unrelated to what we did. And then the problem is to sort of have an understanding and trust regarding that. Some people will trust you and say, okay, that sounds reasonable, while others will just say, this happened when you were here. That means you are the cause of it. You have to fix it. And therein lies the problem. There's a logical short circuit there. Basically, that is really difficult to solve. In some cases, it's easily solvable. In other cases, it's really hard. So therein lies the problem. Now, you might say, okay, this is very unreasonable by the customer to assume that we did, or ask even that something that we did affected the app. But you can imagine from the customer's point of view, you have a team come in. Of course, he's not monitoring all the time what we do. And then he sees that suddenly his app doesn't connect. So obviously, one of his first questions is going to be, maybe one of our guys touched the meter or did something with the Wi-Fi module, even though our work was not about that. It's easy to think that way. And therein lies the trust. Yeah, you might think that, but it makes no sense if you look at what... But therein lies the trust issue. Everything in the foundation of when you work with something is about trust at the end. But therein lies the problem too. It's really hard to prove. And when you want to base something on trust, it's not always that ends well. So that's why we have to be really careful when doing work on other systems, and that also most of the time we don't. Another example is that for a customer, we changed the inverter. And then there was a problem with DC cables to the combiner box, which we had not touched. So you have to understand how that works. Like, there are DC cables that goes to the combiner box, and there are internal cabling there that we actually did not touch at all. Because we are only touching after the combiner box, not before, or internal to the combiner box when we change an inverter. So he had like a short circuit on one of the DC cables, or at least there was a problem there. I can't remember the exact problem, but there was a problem. And then, of course, I said that actually we did not touch that at all. Because when we change the inverter, we don't touch those cables. And then he said, well, difficult for him to understand that. But then we talked a little bit and we came to an understanding. But that was just because he trusted my explanation. So you see, and then I am basing everything on that the customer is reasonable and willing to trust. And that's not always the case. You know, people are different. People have different experiences. Some people don't want to trust that easily. So then you have a bigger problem. And actually, this is related to any kind of business. And in that regard, I talked to my friend Bjarne Olsen, who is running a swimming pool company in Thailand. And what kind of experiences does he have with this concept of if you touch it, you own it? Okay, I'm here with Bjarne, who is my old friend who has been running a swimming pool company in Thailand. How many years have you done that now, Bjarne?
It's about 10 years, almost 10 years already.
Almost 10 years. So how many pools have you made, approximately?
I think I'm on number 60 now.
60?
Depends a little bit how I'm counting, because a few of them we've done only renovation, but about 60.
About 60. So you have a lot of experience with Thai workers and with customer relationships and everything like that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. A lot of, especially with Thai workers, I have a lot of opinion about that. Of course, customer is customer,
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to talk about today is that we have this concept, if you touch it, you own it. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, it can mean many things, but good advice, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Don't touch it. If somebody else been doing the job before you and they're not finished, they're not doing a good job or whatever, and then they just get stuck, because they do have problems. And if they call me for help, and when I go there, I just really feel on these people and really want to help them. But once I start a job, I cut off a PVC or take off a pump or something, I cannot just leave that customer alone before I'm finished. So that means I kind of own the whole job, right? And I do not want to own the whole job, so it's better to just stay away. And that's not really nice to do to a customer either. But yeah, I say that very easily on the phone, very quickly on the phone many times. That no, call your the company that actually made it and try to make them get there, you know. And I'm just too busy. And I do
And
feel that.
that's the problem, because as company owners, of course, we want to help them. We want to help every person that calls us, because that's why we exist. But at the same time, we have to look at the risk of every job and see what can happen and what has happened in the past when we have tried to do something like that. And do you have any examples from your own work where something has gone wrong?
No, I don't really, because whatever I touched, I just had to own it and I just finish it, you know. But I do have to say that I've been doing things, you know, you go back and back and back and back and back, and because you can't really solve it, you can't really charge for it, you know. I just remember as it was a pool that was so hard to fit. The filter system just way too small. It's a wrong sand inside. The pool turned green, and it's like 4.5 hours away from me. And I go back, you know, I use a day just to go up and down there. And I cannot charge the customer tens of thousands, you know, for things that I cannot fix. But still, I put my honor in kind of fix it because I said I'm gonna help him.
Yeah.
But that specific job, for sure, I lost money on, you know. But I think it's about to getting better now, you know. So, but that's the pool where the owner actually left, and I said, "Don't worry, I will take care of your pool." And then once he left, it turned green, and that is we used few months to get on top of that. So that's one thing. And then another thing is a pump room. A German man that called me, big problem with pump room. We went there one time just to start it. I really warned him that say, we don't really want to do anything. So when he wants us to come back and fix more, I just say, either I cut down everything, I change everything in the pump room, or I don't want to touch it. I don't want to fix on this because it's really old. It's a lot of garbage inside that pump room. I gave him a price on a totally new pump room, and I haven't heard from him since.
Yeah. And
That was just too much.
it and the interesting thing from the customer's perspective, it obviously can be difficult too. It's like if you go to the repair shop with your car and then when it's finished you have a new problem, it's very easy to think that the guys in the repair shop caused it. But it is not always like that, obviously, because it's just happening at the same time. Doesn't mean that the reason is the people that worked on the system, but it's very, very hard to prove and find out who did it.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, no, and when you starting a job like this, you know, you just have to kind of finish it. And normally all these people, they're nice people, and I really feel on them, you know. But I can fix anything inside a pump room, but I cannot fix anything under the ground, you know. So if it's leaking or sucking air or something, you know, these kind of things, and sometimes the people don't want to use too much money on it either, and sometimes it's just going to cost money.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's great, Bjarne. So good luck with your company. What are you doing today? Are you working?
Well, today we just outside Unotane. We start tiling. We're tiling a swimming pool with natural stone this time. Owner is very exciting, Mr. Michael. So he coming back once we have water in the pool, and he gonna swim, of course.
Okay,
So,
sounds great.
excited
Okay,
for this.
take it easy, Bjarne.
Yes, bye bye.
Okay, guys, so that was Bjarne. Really nice feedback and input from Bjarne there. So you can see how that's applicable to all businesses. And if you are thinking of starting a business, especially with electrical construction, anything like that, this is really have to be on the top of your mind, because you're going to get a lot of inquiries like that, because unfortunately there's a lot of not serious companies around, and then they have a lower price, so many people, they get an installation or get a house built by a company like that. Then when the house is finished, the warranties are not upheld, there's a problem, and there's something that they want to fix, and then they will ask other companies to come and do that. So it's really a frequent inquiry to come and fix or expand or do something, and therein lies the danger also. And you might say, okay, we'll just write the contract and make it all clear, but it really is in the nature of this kind of thing. It is fussy, because you have workers walking around looking at different things, and you don't have video of everything they do. So in principle, some worker, new junior worker who, in theory, somebody could have done something. So that's why it's so difficult, all of this. But in the end, it's all about trust, and you can't really base big business decisions on trust. You have to have a much clearer foundation. So that's why most of your jobs, if not more than 90%, should not be these kind of jobs, if any at all. And if you do them, you should base them on a long-term relationship, that you have a common. And of course, like, there's also certain jobs of this kind that's easier to do than others. I'll give you an example. So let's say that the customer has an old solar system, and then he wants to renew it or update it, fix it. So we can say, okay, normally we don't come in and change anything, but what we can do, we can take your old panels, we run new cables from them, fix everything up on the roof, but we keep the old panels. And then new cables, new inverter, new combiner box, new everything. That sometimes works, because then it's a defined, very defined specific area where we keep the old equipment, and also based on a reasonable conversation with the customer, that's something that can be done. So you can make exceptions, and you can make agreements that sort of break that rule. But all rules, you can have exceptions and reasons for breaking. It's all about how you do it, and that you have a conscious decision when you do that kind of job, and you know all the dangers and pitfalls. So, and luckily in our company we have never had a situation like that end badly, but it's been uncomfortable sometimes, yes, and we will have to have long conversations about what has happened. Like the example with the guy who lost his app and connection. 1 hour after we left, it came back. So the problem was completely not related to what we did. So in that situation, everything solved itself. But you can imagine if that problem had continued, what would have happened? What would the customer have wanted from us? So it's difficult, but you have to navigate this area if you want to have a reasonable business.